There is a particular kind of emptiness that does not announce itself loudly. It does not arrive with a dramatic event or a clear cause. It simply settles in, quietly, like a fog that makes everything look the same distance away. You go through the motions. You fulfill your obligations. You answer messages and eat meals and sleep and wake. But somewhere underneath all of it, a question keeps surfacing. One you might not even have words for yet. What is any of this actually for? If you have ever felt that, you are not broken. You are not weak. You are experiencing something that has troubled human beings across every culture and every century. And one of the most consistent answers that philosophy and human experience have arrived at, independently from very different directions, is this. When the self becomes the only object of the self's attention, life tends to contract. And when we turn outward, towards something or someone beyond our own concerns, something in us often begins to breathe again. This is not a simple idea, and it deserves more than a motivational slogan. So let us take it seriously. There is a long-standing observation, shared across many traditions of thought, that human beings are not fundamentally isolated creatures who occasionally choose to cooperate. We are, at our core, social beings whose sense of well-being is deeply tied to our felt connection with others and with the wider community. When that connection is absent or severed, something essential goes missing. Not just emotionally, but in terms of how we experience meaning itself. Many thinkers across history have noticed that people who feel lost, anxious, or without direction often share a common pattern. Their attention has become almost entirely self-directed, not out of selfishness in the moral sense, but out of pain. When life hurts, we naturally turn inward. We protect ourselves. We monitor our own suffering. We try to solve ourselves, and for a while, that is necessary. But if it goes on too long, the inward turn can become a kind of trap. The more we focus exclusively on our own condition, the larger and more unmanageable it can seem. Contribution, genuine, freely given engagement with something beyond yourself, can interrupt that pattern. Not by erasing your pain, but by giving it a different context. Think about what actually happens when you help someone. Your attention shifts. For a period of time, your own concerns are not the center of the frame. You are thinking about another person's situation, their needs, their experience. And in that shift, something interesting tends to occur. Your own difficulties do not disappear, but they often become more proportionate. They sit alongside other things, rather than filling the entire room. There is also something that happens to your sense of agency. One of the most corrosive aspects of feeling directionless is the sense that nothing you do makes any real difference, that you are passive, acted upon, adrift. Contribution, even in a modest form, can directly challenge that feeling. When you do something that genuinely helps another person, you may find concrete evidence that your actions have consequences, that you matter, that the world is slightly different because you were in it today. That is not a small thing. For someone who has been living inside a fog of purposelessness, it can feel like the first solid ground in a long time. This is why the connection between service and purpose is not merely philosophical. It can be functional, shifting the internal experience of the day and changing the inner narrative from one of passivity to one of participation. But let us go a little deeper, because that explanation alone does not quite capture the full weight of what is happening. There is a philosophical dimension to this that is worth sitting with. Human beings are meaning-seeking creatures. We do not simply want to survive. We want our survival to signify something. We want to feel that our presence in the world has a shape, a direction, a reason. And one of the most reliable sources of that feeling, across cultures, across centuries, across very different philosophical traditions, is the sense that we are part of something larger than our individual life. This does not have to be religious, though for many people it is. It can be a community, a cause, a family, a craft, a garden, a friendship. What matters is that it extends beyond the boundaries of the self. When we contribute to something that will outlast our current mood, our current crisis, or even our current life, we are participating in a kind of continuity that the isolated self cannot provide on its own. Across many accounts of people who have endured extreme hardship, a recurring theme emerges. Those who found, or held on to, a sense of purpose, that extended beyond themselves, often discovered a resource that purely inward focus could not supply. A person to return to, a work to complete, a truth to bear witness to. We should be careful not to romanticize suffering, and contribution is not a cure for trauma, nor a substitute for genuine support when that is needed. But the observation points to something real. Meaning is often found not inside the self alone, but in the relationship between the self and the world. Now, a word of caution, because this idea can be misused. Contribution is not the same as self-erasure. Helping others does not mean abandoning your own needs, ignoring your own pain, or making yourself perpetually available to everyone around you at the cost of your own stability. That is not service. That is depletion, wearing the costume of virtue. Genuine contribution comes from a place of relative groundedness, not from a place of running away from yourself by staying busy with other people's problems. The distinction matters. If you are helping others primarily to avoid sitting with your own discomfort, the relief will be temporary and the exhaustion will be real. But if you are helping from a place of genuine care, even imperfect, uncertain care, the effect tends to be restorative rather than draining. So how might you begin, particularly if you are in a period where even small things feel effortful? Start smaller than you think you need to. Contribution does not require grand gestures or dramatic sacrifice. It can be as simple as listening, really listening, to someone who needs to be heard. It can be showing up reliably for one person, one commitment, one small corner of the world. It can be offering a skill you have to someone who needs it. It can be tending to something living, a plant, an animal, a community space, with consistent, quiet care. The scale is almost irrelevant. What matters is the orientation. Are you turning, even slightly, towards something beyond your own internal weather? Because that turn, however modest, tends to create a small but real shift in how the day feels. And small shifts, repeated over time, have a way of becoming something much larger. There is also something worth noting about belonging. When we contribute to a group, a community, or a shared endeavor, we do not just help others, we also create the conditions for genuine belonging. And belonging, it turns out, is one of the most powerful antidotes to the kind of directionlessness we began with. Not belonging in the superficial sense of being included or liked, but belonging in the deeper sense of being needed, of knowing that your presence makes a difference to the shape of something. That knowledge, quiet, earned, and real, is one of the most stabilizing forces a human being can experience. So if you are standing in that fog right now, wondering what any of it is for, consider this. The answer may not be waiting for you inside yourself. It may be waiting in the direction you have not yet turned. Not because your inner life does not matter, it does enormously, but because the self on its own is rarely large enough to be its own source of meaning. Turn outward, even a little, even imperfectly, and see what begins to shift. If this video gave you something to think about, consider sharing it with someone who might need it today. And if you would like to explore more ideas about meaning, direction, and the inner life, Inside the Labyrinth is here whenever you are ready. And if this spoke to a part of you that rarely gets heard, stay with that feeling for a moment. You are not broken because you feel deeply. You are only beginning to understand yourself. Subscribe to Inside the Labyrinth for more reflections on the hidden patterns of the human mind.